Number 1.
My aunt was a con artist, and she learned from the best, her father. Grandpa never made it big, but he lived for the game. Staying under the radar was probably what made sure he never did get caught. Not once. He was so proud of that. Mom didn't take up the family business. She got religion instead, and married a tax accountant. It's so ironic that it sounds like a joke, but it's true. Dad was the best for helping out with math homework. Mom's more colorful relations were kept at a figurative arm's length throughout my childhood, lest they'd corrupt me into following a more interesting life path. Aunt Cassie was the only one who could wiggle her way into my life. She was fully licensed as a psychologist, which made her a smidge more respectable. But Aunt Cassie used her ability to read a person in a whole different way, one probably not intended by the university who issued her degree. Aunt Cassie was a bona fide psychic. She had a shop and everything. Crystals, herbs, candles, anything you needed to fill the mystic void in your life could be bought for a healthy markup at her little store. There was even a private room in the back that was used for readings and seances. Because both of my folks worked, I would often get dropped off at the shop, where I would help Aunt Cassie out with those little shows. Anything from messing with the lights to knocking on walls, playing with a thermostat. It was my idea, and it was an effective one. Customers came to get chills down their spine, didn't they? Why not provide? Cassie helped me become the skeptic I am today. Showed me all the behind-the-scenes sleight-of-hand stuff. We'd watch daytime talk shows with magicians and mediums, and Cassie would explain every step from a basic rundown of cold readings to how to spot an audience plant. After one particular convincing episode, I asked a natural question. Couldn't some of it be real? My aunt's reply was firm. The dead don't talk, kiddo. Anyone who claims otherwise is blowing smoke out of their ass. It was her conviction, more than anything, that made me believe her. There was only one client I ever saw my aunt refuse. He was old, bald and stooped. He took his hat off when he came inside and twisted it in his hands as he talked. Cassie tensed up immediately when she saw him. The man claimed to have worked in the prison systems, death row. He'd been responsible for carrying out the final punishments of the worst convicted criminals on the planet. In his old age, this tormented him, ate at his soul. He wanted Cassie to contact the souls of the ones he'd killed, so he could apologize and beg forgiveness before he joined them. My aunt threw the most epic fit. I'd never seen her so mad. She hollered and threw things, shouting for him to get out and shut up. I hid under the counter with my hands over my ears until he left. Later, I thought her reaction was one of fear because of the man's job. An executioner has to be a con artist's worst fear. Eventually, I got found out. I wanted to put on a magic show for my folks, and stupidly, I thought I'd do a medium bit where I pretended to talk to Grandpa for Mom, since she missed him so much. Huge mistake. Mom freaked the hell out and banned me from seeing her sister ever again. I left some textbooks at the shop though, so I got to run in and grab them while my mom fumed in the car outside. Aunt Cassie didn't even have to ask what was wrong. She could read my face after all. I gave her a hug and a teary snot-filled goodbye. She did tell me one last secret though. Kiddo, there's a curse in this family that gets passed like a torch. I hope to whatever gods might be out there that I don't pass it on to you when I go. We didn't get to talk again for more than 9 years. That's when Facebook entered the popular public sphere, and no parental ban could keep me from trying to reconnect. It was awkward. She'd had a tough go of life, diagnosed with schizoid disorder that took her business from her. To pay bills, she went legitimate, and with her business, when all her zest and playful passion for life. One day, I got home to a message waiting in my inbox that made my stomach drop to the floor. I love you, kiddo. Remember what I told you. I dialed her number, already crying. No answer. It didn't stop me from dialing again, and again, and again. I was too much of a mess to tell my mom. The police did that for me the next day. A car accident with a drunk driver. The funeral was a blur. Relatives I'd never seen in the flesh packed the church. I sat between my parents in the front row and racked my brain, trying to figure out what it was my aunt wanted me to remember. We followed the hearse to the cemetery in dead silence. The priest did the last little speeches, and then I was left alone by her headstone, still straining to remember. Snatches of my parents' conversation floated in and out of my attention span. If only Cassie hadn't been so cryptic. Expecting such a small turnout. It's a shame. Small turnout. That bothered me. The service had practically been stuffed to the rafters. I turned around to say something, and finally understood. Behind my parents, there was a whole host of people, all standing and staring dead ahead. My parents weren't paying them the slightest attention. The priest muttered some soothing condolences and excused himself, walking right through the thick of the crowd without disturbing a single soul. At the head of the group, looking just like the day I'd seen her last, was Cassie. All the rest in peace sentiment in the world wouldn't have done her any good. Her mouth was wide, wide, wide open. And just like that, I knew. I know what the family curse is. I know why the dead don't talk. They're too busy screaming.
Number 2.
As a teenager, I was always a skeptic of all those psychic shows, where the host would sit down with a random stranger and somehow tell them about their lost loved ones and how they tried to communicate with them from the afterlife. I was a skeptic until I met a distant relative of mine. This man, who I only knew as Bak Thin, I'm Vietnamese, was visiting from the US and was my grandfather's cousin. He claimed to be able to see ghosts. I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was a total schizophrenic nutjob at first, but I was curious to hear some of his stories. So he told me about a time one of his close friends had said she was starting to feel sick inside of her own home. No matter what kind of remedies she tried or doctors she went to, she'd always end up sick for long periods of time. So one day, Bak Thin decided to visit her at home. Immediately, he noticed a strong odor, a smell of rotting flesh, which only he could smell. He walked through the house and noticed an old piano nestled in the corner of her room. "Where'd you buy that?" he asked, to which she replied that she bought it from a garage sale. Bak then continued on into the house and walked into her kitchen. He told me that right as he entered her kitchen, on the top of her fridge, sat a man. His face a sickly green tinge. He reeked of rotting flesh. The man sat there, smiling creepily down at them, not saying a word. Just sat there like he was waiting for something or someone. Bak then immediately knew that this man was somehow connected to the piano his friend had just bought. He thought maybe it was the dead owner that refused to leave his prized piano behind. Staying silent, he quietly turned around and told his friend to immediately sell the piano and leave the house. According to Bak Thin, after leaving the house and the piano behind, The bouts of sickness never returned to her. Jokingly, I asked him why he didn't try asking the ghost to leave. The atmosphere tensed, and Bogdan looked me right in the eye and said, "Don't ever talk to the dead." He told me that the dead lived in their own dimension, their own world. Because of that, the dead would always try to communicate with the living. They wanted a connection like a real human would with other people. He said that as soon as they knew you could see them and communicate with them, they'd latch onto you and never stop following you. After all of that, I still sort of doubted all of his stories and warnings. I mean, they were all stories, right? But curiously enough, at that moment, my grandma came down to sit and chat. After a while, my grandma left the room to grab tea, and Bogdan turned to my family to give us a strange warning. Now, my grandma had always wanted to visit Vietnam again, ever since moving here to Canada. At the time, she was 83 years old. Bogdan said that if we were to take her to Vietnam, she'd have to go before her 94th birthday, not a year later. After that, she would not be able to go. With that, Bogdan said goodbye and left for his hotel. I never saw him again. Fast forward 11 years, a few weeks before my grandmother's 94th birthday. I sensed something off about her. Her cheeks were no longer pink, but instead yellow. In fact, her whole face looked like a deep yellow. A couple days later, after a doctor visit, my grandma was diagnosed with old-age leukemia. Her bone marrow just decided to stop producing blood. 2 weeks later, one day after her 91st birthday, my grandma passed away. Creepiest part, I received a phone call that same day from Bogdan at his home in the U.S., offering his condolences for our loss. Not a single person in my family had told anyone about her death. He already knew. To this day, I often find myself thinking about the things he's told me. I'd be lying if I told you I didn't now believe some of it. I sometimes imagine the dead just staring at me while I'm alone in my home, waiting patiently for you to give them a sign that you can see them. My question to you is, if you could speak to Bogdan about your future, or that of your loved ones, would you? I know I wouldn't.
Number 3.
When my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer, my husband and I wanted her to move in with us so I could look after her. However, she refused to leave her own home, and it was too small for us to move in with her. So, we purchased the vacant lot next to her home and built a house on it. This compromise worked out fine until she suddenly passed away the following summer. One afternoon, about 1 month after the funeral, I was sitting alone on my deck, looking over at my mom's old home and wondering what to do with it. It was so close to my new home that renting or selling it would cause us to lose the privacy we enjoyed. Yet, I couldn't just let it stay vacant and pay taxes and maintain it. Suddenly, what appeared to be a bright spot of sunlight hovered in front of me, and I heard my mother's voice say, "Take what you want from the house, lock it up, and let it be. On June 8th, the problem will solve itself." I told my husband about the incident, although he thought I was being rather foolish. He agreed to go along with my wishes to follow those instructions. One night, a vicious storm broke out, and the old house was struck by lightning and burned to the ground. It was insured for replacement value, which was 3 times what we could have sold it for. The date the fire occurred was June 8th.
What's up, y'all? I got right here 3-second stories to bring here with my good friend GhoulishGal. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. It was a really good pleasure working with GhoulishGal. I mean, she's one of my good friends of mine. And I really like her channel and shit, so I think you guys go check out her story. I think you guys really like it. I did collab with her, and there's one of them stories, ghosts about ghosts and shit. That's on her channel if you want to go see. I think it turned out pretty damn well, but I mean, you gotta go check it out for yourself. I don't fucking know shit. Alright, the link's gonna be in the description below, so you gotta click on over her damn channel and subscribe. She got some pretty damn good content, and I've been a pretty good friend of hers, and I'm a fan of her channel. She does podcasts and shit like that. Yeah, I kind of enjoy them too. But it's all based off reference, I guess. Oh, yeah. Now, there's some of these stories right here, they're a little bit unbelievable and stuff. I mean, it's open to interpretation, I guess. But, yeah. The thing is most of these stories, they're all open to interpretation. But I just try to pick the best ones that I see fit and most people enjoy. You know, I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. Now, see, am I gonna get a Big Dip right here? Hold on, get Big Dip. Yeah, get Big Dip right there.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, guys. So yeah, this is a collab with GhoulishGal. Friends with GhoulishGal. We did a collab that's on her channel. So if you guys want to go check that out, I think it was a pretty damn good video myself. So, but I mean, that's up to you guys. If you want to go check her out, I mean, I wouldn't think it would be. I would think it'd be wise if you did. But that's totally up to you guys. I mean, the link for her channel will be in the description below. So you just click on over, subscribe to her channel, give her a hug, and pat on the head, and whatever else you see fit. And check out the video that we did together, and it will all turn out okay. Okay. I fucking love pigs. Oh, goddamn. I motherfucking love pigs. I just want to fucking wallow around with one and hug them and get on them and start fucking riding them because I love pigs. Just want to get a big round mud pit and get like 10 pigs and just roll around with them and play with them. I don't know. I guess that's just me.